Hey everyone, today Demetra and I are going to tell you all about box hair color that you buy at the store and why you should not use it. Um, just to give you a preemptive in case you don't want to hear the explanation, it is damaging to your hair almost all the time. It makes your hair more frizzy. If you do not put it on properly, it is very splotchy or creates dark spots for you. And also, the color can be really hard to change later. And anytime you're mixing two things together, it's not going to just wash off. So if you decide later to change it, there are situations where it's not a huge deal. There are plenty of situations where it is a big deal, and your choices are very much limited because of what's already on your hair.
Yeah, I want to double that notion. And I hate admitting this right now, but my mother uses box color, and she is 100% white, and she's crazy about having her hair color. So she does it every 2 weeks, right? And, for 6 months out of the year, she leaves to Arizona. So I'm not able to do her hair. However, she's probably your color, Barbara, maybe even a little darker.
Yeah.
And she does use a box color, which I keep telling her, I'd rather just buy her the professional stuff. I'll show her how to mix it. Partially because it's very drying to the hair, and her hair looks like ink, especially when you're using darker colors, right?
Yeah.
And box color. And the reason why I say this is because I agree, box color is not really good, but I do know for a few people that use it. Like I said, my mom, and for her, every 2 weeks she does it. She can't reach the back. I do it for her. But again, her hair just always looks super dry, very inky looking. And again, there could be a lot of bands in the hair. And I do have one other client that uses something called like Fructis or something, a box color, and it looks good on her and it works for her. However, if you plan or you're someone that likes to change your hair color or go from light to dark or adding highlights, it's 100% no. And Barbara is going to tell you all the reasons why it's a no, especially if you want to change it and go lighter.
Yes, thank you. And
Mm-hmm.
I do agree. Like, I'm not saying every last situation is a terrible idea, but when you ask a hairstylist about the difference between what we can do versus what someone can do at home using a store-bought kit, it is kind of like a 25-minute explanation, and we just like get frustrated and just say, just don't do it. I will tell
That's
you,
true.
before I became a hairdresser, I actually used henna dye on my hair,
Oh,
and I really liked it because henna is a different category altogether, but it is beyond permanent. Like bleach won't take henna out of your hair. So if you have
oh,
like super dark hair, you can color it like black or very very dark brown with henna. But I mean, I witnessed it myself. I thought it was fascinating. Like I had a pixie cut and I started growing out my hair, and I actually bleached my whole head to make it like a brighter color. And but it was like the first like 2 inches is the only thing that would budge out of black.
wow. So, that's interesting you said that because my client, she just came in last week and she's been using henna. But she's like a light brown, medium
Yeah.
brown, so it's on the lighter side. And it actually looks really nice because her hair, I would say, is like a 30% being the white hair. So it almost looks, because it doesn't take 100% because it's lighter, it looks like she has highlights in her hair.
Hmm.
And it's gorgeous and it works for her. But she was asking me last week, like, I think I'm ready to transition to doing color because I'm getting more grays. And I wasn't familiar how it works with if you have henna on your hair. And I'm like, I'm not a colorist. Like, honestly, as much as you would want me to do it, I would have to refer you to a specialist. So tell me a little bit about that with henna, and then we'll get into the box color because that is very interesting.
So henna is a whole different animal where it is like coating the outside of the hair strand, but it is
Like a
so
stain? Is it more
yeah.
like a stain? Okay.
Henna almost always wants to go kind of red. So if you
Mm.
get like a very amateur kit, and you're like 100% white, it could turn out very red. Um, and the thing is, it doesn't make your hair feel bad at all. Your hair will feel great if your hair is already in good condition. But literally, you put anything on it to try to lighten it, not anything will work. Nothing.
Oh, wow. How about
It's
if someone wanted to go, let's say, a little darker?
Yeah,
It's okay to put color on it then?
yeah,
Okay, but if they're trying to go lighter, it's a no-go. Like you almost have to kind of let it grow out. It just nothing will budge it.
yeah.
Okay.
But if what's interesting is if someone is doing like a light, like as you say, like a light brown with henna, if you put on a darker color, it is an interesting mix of the two colors because traditional hair color will go inside the hair and the henna will still be over, like coating the top of the hair strand.
Oh. So if they start doing it long term, it's definitely going to be a different result maybe 8 months down the line opposed to when they first started.
Yes. Like
Something
henna,
to be very prepared for.
yeah, well, henna is the same version of hair color as what I would call like a Japanese straightener. Like once you do that to your hair, it will never be, ever, until you cut it off, what it was before, which is
Got
okay.
it.
You just got to be aware of the commitment.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Good to
Um,
know.
and if somebody has box color or henna, especially henna, I I feel like you have to, as a professional colorist, do a test strand because you just really don't know what's gonna happen. So it's good to do like um, just a little bit in the back, even just like a test foil, just to see
Mm-hmm.
what. And I've also done it with like trying different formulas in like a few different spots in the back, just to see what it will do to each of those items.
That's true, especially if someone's doing henna, more than likely themselves applying it. So if they're not getting it very good in the back, that's another reason that it's going to take also very differently. I mean, you can have a very disastrous outcome actually
Yeah,
with that. Yeah, a lot of different layers of stuff being,
yeah.
you know.
Well, and something people don't think about too much is like, as I was describing the henna, how I knew it was going to do that, but I bleached my hair and it was an exact line where it was black, it was still black.
Wow.
Where if somebody, I mean, it is very rare for me to have somebody come in and they've colored their own hair at home, like within a few days, and they're like, "Oh, I would like some highlights." I mean, it happens, but not that often. Usually, people wait until like they need their roots done and they want their roots and highlights.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The big problem is with box color because you don't know how it's going to react. It's, if your hair, if you have an inch and a half of outgrowth, the inch and a half of hair, if you're highlighting all the way to the root, will, no matter what, it'll be like brighter than the hair on the ends that has been colored with the box hair color.
Right.
So it's a bit of a tricky game.
Yeah, and that's why it's like if someone's coming in, that's not necessarily considered a single process that's actually a correction, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And
So also know how to book for your appointment. If you're someone that's going from box color and then you're going to start seeing a professional, you need to let them know that because it will take more time. And if you just to get the best results, yeah, you need to let them know.
yes, I like to, when I have a project like that,
Mm-hmm.
I very much prefer to like do one or two processes on the hair and then explain to them that it is a process and they go home 2, 3, maybe 6 weeks later. Then we come back and do more. You can have it all done in one day. It's just much harder on your hair.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be also really quite expensive because you're paying for a stylist's entire like 8-hour shift or 9-hour shift. So,
Wow. Yeah.
anyway, food for thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so since we went over, like, I just want to give you in the front of the episode, just in case you don't want to hear why, the reasons, like, the box dye will make your hair frizzier, even if your hair looks nice right after, because there's so many things that will coat your hair. But let's explain why. So the result of any hair color process is half what is being mixed up the hair color to put on your hair and half of what your existing hair is. And when I say your existing hair, meaning your texture, the condition of your hair, the color of your hair, if it's virgin hair or it's been colored, all these things matter. And so the problem with the box color scenario is they don't make like 100 versions of like here's a box for if you're medium brown and you want to go to blonde, or you're medium brown and you want to go black, or are you black and want to go chestnut brown. So that's the issue with it being so unpredictable, because it's not bespoke, which is what a professional will do, is formulate the color exactly to your situation.
But also, with that being said, color does not lift color. So if you're already using box color and you are a dark brown and now you want to even go to a chestnut, thinking that it's in the brown family, chestnut has some warmth. It's going to be a lighter brown. So if you're using box color, it's not going to lift that. You're just going to get like hot roots, right?
Yeah.
And you can't go, from dark to blonde. The only thing that will take is the virgin hair.
Right.
So that's the other thing with box color. Color does not lift color. And Barbara, can you explain what that actually means for the people that don't understand?
Well, I should say it like this. Any color that has to be a mixture of two things. So if it's a box or from a hairstylist, whatever. When it's a mixture of two things, it is technically permanent. And I'll tell you, it's altering your natural hair, which we all in the industry call virgin hair. Once your hair has been chemically altered, it is never going to be exactly what it was, but you can move within it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So if you color say your hair is light brown and you color it dark brown, if you want it to be medium brown, you cannot take out that color without a lifting agent like a bleach or a lightener.
Or a color remover per se.
Yes. Well, you could do color remover, but that's a really dicey one. I would never do that at home on your own.
No, right. But just in general, so people know that color doesn't lift color, right? So when they're doing box color, that's another faulty reason to not use box color, because, on the back, I'll show you dark brown and here's chestnut brown. You could go to chestnut brown. What they're failing to basically tell you, those pictures on the back of the box are on virgin hair. It's not on the hair that's already been processed. So what Barbara's also saying, like, you need bleach. That has to break through what's already been on the hair.
Yes.
Yeah. So box color will not be able to lift you to a blonde or a lighter color. It will only retouch the new growth virgin hair, as we're saying. So that's another reason why box color is so bad. You don't have any really options once it's done and colored. Then you have to go see a professional. Once you go see a professional, now we're getting into, again, this is going to be a color correction.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. And that can be a lot to try to make the hair even once it gets really uneven. So, and that brings me to a major issue with box color is the application. But with box color, when you are just kind of aiming, even if you have somebody, who's not a professional helping you out, that might be good. But here's the thing, if you overlap your new growth, say you have white hair and you want it brown. If you have like this much, like an inch of white hair, and then the color is put on for an inch and a half, there's going to be a dark band, because what was colored before, again, the existing color is brown and you're putting more brown on top of it, it's getting to be an even darker brown.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we end up with like super inky. Like you can't put the new color onto your existing colored hair and have it turn out like the box would have you believe.
Mm-hmm. That's why I think it's also very important when you're applying the color as a professional and taking those sections that they're taking. And the reason why it takes the amount of time that it takes, you're going to someone who is taking their time to not overlap. When you're at home, it's going to be a little messy. Even if you have someone helping you, like you're saying, you might end up getting it on hair that's already have color. So now you're starting to get these bands and, different variations.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So any hair color that you buy or from a professional is made of a mixture of two things. And when you mix those things together, you will have hair color that's active for 45 minutes to an hour. So this is kind of like a negative when people text you and say, start mixing, I'm almost there, because it needs to be, put on your head within a certain amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
And within that time, it's even, much, much better to be at the beginning of that time when you're putting it on the hair. So out of those two things, there's a thicker substance that's in a tube. Usually it's kind of like a metal kind of toothpaste container. It's like the consistency of toothpaste. And it's a thicker thing. That is the hair color. And that is what has ammonia in it, if it is in fact traditional color. So there's a big trend of going no ammonia, which is arguably harder on your hair and less healthy for us. But
The
that's another.
the no pneumonia
Correct.
is really.
Yeah.
Wow. So, because I thought that the big thing is now, they're saying no pneumonia, that's supposed to be the healthier. So, why are they advertising that so much and pushing it?
I think it's like a fad, to be honest with you. I mean, okay, so ammonia is it's the ingredient that makes you kind of go, whew, when you smell it, because it's like strong.
Yes.
But ammonia, I mean, it does exactly what we need it to do. And it washes off easy too. So it's like evaporates, it's gone. Your hair never smells funny after it's washed off. So
And that's in the pigment, in the actual color,
correct.
not in the developer.
Correct.
Wow. Okay.
So, and you can use the same developer as you always do with a tube of color that says no ammonia sometimes,
Okay.
depending on. So there's some versions they use this it's called MEA, and that's a no ammonia way of permanently coloring hair that there's an oil in it.
Okay.
And it's more difficult to get rid of it, so there's remnants of it staying on your scalp even after the color's washed off. There's all these different things, and so that's why I say if you're truly allergic to ammonia, yes, you need a different option. But that could also be henna, by the way.
Wow. Do you prefer, as a colorist, to use the no pneumonia or
No.
just okay?
I prefer ammonia.
Yeah.
No ammonia, there are some downsides to it, but I feel like that's another episode.
Yeah, definitely. We'll circle back at another time. Yeah.
Okay.
Too much information. We want to give people the basics now and then let them kind of circle back. And yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Let's make notes on that.
So
Okay.
the thing that looks like toothpaste will be also what no longer has PPD in it. PPD is another, it's the actual dye that people have become allergic to and or people have been concerned about it being carcinogenic. So most hair color now does not have PPD, but I do think, I'm sure there's brands out there, especially if they're really inexpensive, that are using PPD still. And that would be in the
Box colors.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So, and that's the one out of the two things you mix together. The second one is also a really interesting and longer topic. That is what we call developer, and it's more liquidy. It seems like I'm trying to think of a good analogy of what
It is. Because it could be creamy, but a liquid cream. So what would that be? Maybe like a protein shake, similar to a protein shake,
Yeah, that's a good one.
right? Okay.
So that, and they can be clear or they can be cream. Good, good distinction there. So, and let me read these words because these are all really appropriate words, but they're all very different. So the developer that we mix with the color, it's also called an activator. It's the peroxide, hydrogen peroxide, oxidizer, catalyst. So this is and a bleaching agent. So that's why I say whenever you have a developer in, you're altering the hair, and it's not going to be able to be put back. You can get close by coloring it close to what it was or what the outgrowth is, but you're actually bleaching it a little bit when you do
And that's
that.
the only way to get color to deposit because you need to open the cuticle. And the only way to open a
Correct.
cuticle is using something strong enough, as in like a bleach, color bleach, even though it's not highlighting, catalyst, developer, oxidizer. Because you got to open that cuticle, and that's the only way to open it in order to get color done.
Yes.
Okay.
So one brand that I've been dipping into a bit has a different, okay, I'm sorry, I'm backtracking just a little bit. They're one of the only people I know that are not using MEA, and that's no ammonia, and they're using a chemical reaction to warms up the color. Because you just brought up a thought. When you heat up the hair, it opens the cuticle, which is why when the cuticle's open, your hair tends to be more frizzy, right? So
Right.
that's why
'Cause it's
people
open.
do a
Right.
cold rinse on their hair. Like that cold water makes your hair more shiny.
Yeah, because it closes that cuticle down. So why would it be shiny? Because when the cuticle lies flat, the light reflects it. Light reflection creates shine.
Perfectly said. Oh, but this is also why sometimes you'll see people putting a bag over someone's head, like plastic, or an actual heater, because that opens the hair more while the chemicals are doing their thing. But that's you're opening. You got to be able to close that all down, otherwise it's going to look dull and not shiny in the long run. So we try not to blow it open too much. The less, the better, right? To get the job done. Which brings me to the issue. All box color has to be, like, to make it profitable for them, they don't have, as I said, like 100 versions of their colors. Say there's like 30. And so they use the strongest developers in order to make it viable for like 7 different types of hair versus 1. So that is damaging your hair unnecessarily. Unless you're the 1 out of the 7 that they're trying to capture into that specific product. So developer comes in 5 standard strengths for hairdressers, and that is 5 volume, 10 volume, 20 volume, 30 volume, and 40 volume. And I like to describe them as like lip gloss, lip tint, lipstick, like a dark liner, and then a lip stain. So 40 volume is lip stain. That is what, when your lips dry out and it takes 4 days for it to come off. That's like the strong stuff. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so these are hydrogen peroxide, and they're oxidizing the color. That's why when a person mixes up the color, it looks usually white or perhaps like a yellow, or it's not what it's going to end up looking like because the color molecules haven't been oxidized yet. So when you first mix it up, it'll look white, and then 20 minutes later you look back and it's all like dark or whatever the color may be.
Right. Which is a good indication that you're almost cooked.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? You throw something in the oven and you're baking something, and when you start seeing a little more color to it, let's say a piece of chicken, right? It's almost done because it's got some color.
Yeah, we like a good tan.
Yeah.
So hydrogen peroxide is labeled as percentage or volume. Volume indicates the volume of oxygen released for every milliliter of content, and percentage is how much of the bottle is pure hydrogen peroxide. So like a 10 volume is a 3%, 20 volume is 6%, 30 volume is 9%, and 40 volume is 12%. And also, you can buy at beauty supply places 80 volume.
What?
Yeah. You
For
can
what?
buy, well, and also, I think they do 50s as well. So you can buy up to 80 volume, and that is, say you don't want to carry all those different bottles, you can measure it really precisely with distilled water to create 10, 20, 30, or 40 volume by mixing it with the distilled water, not tap water.
So you would get the 80, and now you're breaking down the 80 with the distilled.
Yes. Or if you want a reaction to happen super fast, like part of the reason that hair painting can be difficult is because if you paint lightener on someone's hair, when it dries out, it'll stop working. So
Right.
if someone is trying to do like tips on a man's hair, like just blonde tips,
Mm-hmm.
then, or I'm sorry, anybody with a pixie cut, um, you can mix it straight with the 50, 60, 70, 80. Put it on and like watch it before your eyes, like blonde. And
Also sounds scary and extremely dangerous. I
well,
mean,
yeah, you
because,
can't get it on your skin or their skin. It's pretty caustic.
yeah, wow.
Um, but it's interesting to note there's something that
Mm-hmm.
strong.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
um,
Mm-hmm.
and just lastly, I want to touch on pH. And pH, I didn't even really know this until like a week ago. pH stands for potential of hydrogen. Interesting.
Oh,
So,
potential hydrogen,
this is something
pH.
else that a lot of colorists like keep in the forefront of our minds. So the um, pH is like 0 to 14, right? And 7 is totally neutral. And human skin and hair is like 4.5 to 5.5, so
Mm-hmm.
slightly acidic. It's interesting to note that if the inside of your body is in an alkaline state, allegedly cancer can't really survive.
Right.
A lot of illnesses like thrive in acidic environments.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, uh hair color is like permanent hair color. Lifting up the cuticle is very alkaline substances, and then you got to bring it back down to make the cuticle go down.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times glosses, like if you're glossing highlights and whatnot, are very acidic to try to compensate for it being raised up so much to really bring everything back down. Also interesting that um, our tap water is in the US is about 4.3 to 5.3, because of how our water is purified and or, minerals in it. Technically, all sorts of chemicals that can be found in, well, from pollution and whatnot. Oh,
This is why I am drinking alkaline water.
that is
Sorry, hold on.
awesome.
Alkaline water. You guys, this is interesting. So we're talking about pH. That is so
Yes.
interesting. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm drinking. So look at there's a scale down here,
Yeah.
right? You guys see that? So yeah, this is at a 7, this water. So if, like Barbara said, from 4.3 to a 5, this is bringing you more to a neutral state of
Yeah.
drinking water, which is very important. Not just hair related, but pH matters with everything.
It
Mm-hmm.
does. It does. And going back to, if you're gonna mix like peroxide to
Mm-hmm.
create that 80 volume and to bring it down, or technically you could have a 40 volume and put distilled water in it
Mm-hmm.
at a certain ratio to create 20 volume. But it's not the same if you do tap water because you're messing with the pH. That's why you
Ah,
need the distilled water.
wow. Do hair colorists really go and grab that 80 and then really try to be a chemist and bring it down instead of just buying what's already pre-mixed? I mean, do you find that they
Not
really
very
care?
often.
Yeah.
But if
Because,
you need something done super fast, it works.
okay, gets the job done. Okay.
Yeah.
Good to maybe have a little 6 ouncer on hand for an emergency, I guess.
Emergency blonding. It happens.
Okay.
You
All
know.
right. Good to know. Yeah. All right. This is definitely an educational segment of Just Hear Me
Yes.
Out. So, not just for our fellow hair colorists and stylists, but even clients that are not really aware of what really goes into it, right? There's a lot of chemistry behind this and science.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's fun stuff.
Yeah, I love it.
Last thing I wanted to say though is I always think it's so interesting once I started um I used to always just buy my cleaners as is.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go from different phases of, I go for the marketing, household cleaners, I mean.
Yeah.
And I at one point got really into using like vinegar, baking soda, and hydrogen peroxide for, different mixtures of those things. And
Mm-hmm.
oh, and Dawn dish soap, very handy, all those together.
Mm-hmm.
But how they have 3% hydrogen peroxide at,
Mm-hmm.
Walgreens. I mean, I think is it like 1% that you used to be that you could put it on a cut or something,
Right.
but you're not supposed to really do that because it kind of washes everything away, including
Right. It
the.
actually gets it just like even with alcohol. That's why they put it on beforehand, like before you get a shot. You're not
Yes.
supposed to put alcohol or peroxide afterwards because it gets rid of all the good bacteria for healing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
And
did
that,
that though when I was a kid. I
we
remember
always did it. We would
it would.
pour like peroxide and watch it bubble up, and
Yes, the
the
bubbling.
bubbling was eating away actually the good stuff. And
Yes.
the reason why alcohol burns so much afterwards because it's friggin' alcohol. You're pouring it on like an open cut, which is not what you're supposed to do.
You
So,
drink it, okay?
right. You drink the alcohol. Yes, Barbara. You drink not rubbing alcohol, regular alcohol.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay. We don't want to lead anyone astray.
Right, right.
All right. Well, okay, that kind of sums up our please don't use box color
Mm-hmm.
because it makes it much harder to change the color later. It's definitely compromising your hair by putting more chemicals on than you need to achieve what you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And if you overlap or miss spots or your application isn't perfect, it's going to not look right. So,
From
thank
the
you for
master herself, Miss Barbara.
thank you for listening to our science section. And next week, we promise to be funny.
Yes.
Bye, guys.
Bye.